Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and my headphone jack did get better, but still through my headphones it doesn't sound too great, so guess I'm doing it this way for the time being. But I'm back with another movie review, and I'm continuing the Badass series with Badass 2, Badasses. Uh-oh, camera froze. This film is from 2014, directed by, yet again, Craig Moss, and it stars Danny Trejo, Danny Glover, Andrew Divoff, Jacqueline Obradors, and Jonathan Lipnicki, technically. In this film, Vietnam vet Frank Vega now runs an East LA community center where he trains young boxers to survive in and out of the ring. But when his prize student falls in with the wrong crowd and turns up dead, Frank teams up with his pal Bernie to take matters into their own fists and prove that justice never gets old. Now, what did I think of Badass 2 Badasses? Well, long story short, I don't hate the film. I like it. I think it is a good sequel, but I do think it suffers from sequelitis in a way of trying to do what the first film did yet again. And there's a lot of things that, quite a few things that do fall flat for me. I'll get to the cast first so that I can get into this. Danny Trejo, yet again, is great as Frank Vega. I really like this character for him. I think he's the perfect fit. Um, he still kicks ass in this film. They still have it be believable. It's not like, oh, he's like going in guns a-blazing and all that. So it's like a semi-believable action film for the most part. There are moments, and I'll get to one of those moments that I actually enjoyed. But still, a more I feel like older people could really get into these movies and like have fun with them. Maybe not think they're masterpieces. I don't even think they're masterpieces. I think they're doing what they're supposed to do, and I think they're fun. Danny Glover as Bernie Pope. He is a new character that's just not being mentioned, and he's supposedly like Danny Trejo's best friend or a friend from back in the day. He's an agoraphobic liquor store or drugstore owner that gets over it in order to save Frank's ass one time. Then they end up teaming up. I think Danny Glover is a great addition to this. I think this was around the same time he was in Proud Mary with Taraji P. Henson. I do think he's definitely better here. It at least sounds like his real voice. In Proud Mary, I'm fully convinced myself without doing any research into that wasn't his real voice because it sounded really bad. Or he had like really bad laryngitis, something like that. But he's still good here. He gets to fight a bit, and he's fun. He's a completely different character to Frank Vega, and it was nice to not see just a repeat character. Andrew Divoff as Leandro Herrera. He's the villain. He's part of the like Argentinian consulate. The whole thing. Actually, this is kind of a reference, I guess, to Lethal Weapon 2, which also had Danny Glover in it, where the villain has diplomatic immunity, and every time they try to catch him, he's gets out of jail immediately. So it's kind of that kind of thing again. I guess that's supposed to be a reference. If that is a reference, that's actually kind of a subtle reference, even though that's like one of the best known lines from Lethal Weapon 2. Diplomatic immunity has just been revoked. Everybody who's seen Lethal Weapon 2 knows that. But yeah, he was a fun villain. He's not in the film a ton. He doesn't need to be. He's one of those villains that you see him a couple times and you're like, oh yeah, he's imposing. And Indra Divoff has always been an imposing villain. So, yeah, nice casting. Jacqueline Obradors as Rosaria Parks. She's the mother of the character Manny that ends up getting killed by these villains. Um, and her and Frank Vega kind of become like love interests, I guess. This is kind of a James Bond type of thing where like each movie, at least the first and second, I don't remember if he had one in the third, has like a different love interest, and they don't really explain what happened to the love interest in the first. And Rosaria is a fine enough character for this type of thing. I did like the character from the first film a bit more. I liked that she was a bit sassier, a bit she had a bit more of an interesting thing to her, and her son was a much better actor. than this character's kid, and I'll get to that as one of the cons of this film. And Jonathan Lipnicki is Hammer. He's not in the film much. He has one scene, uh, but it was still nice to see him play something quite different. Um, I don't know much about Jonathan Lipnicki other than he was in Like Mike and Jerry Maguire. He seems to be another one of those kid actors that, oh, surprise, they have a drug problem later in their lives. Apparently, he went to rehab. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know much about him. And it's none of my business. But this film, the reason I say it's not as good as the first, first of all, on Letterboxd, this is like the second highest rated, and the third is the highest rated of all three. The first one is the lowest rated. I don't really agree with that rating. I think this film, while it does do more of the action comedy thing, I think the first film had a bit more heart to it. Not that this film doesn't have heart to it, it's just that, well, this film tries so hard to do a lot of exactly what the first film did. It has the moments where it both movies have the moments of like, oh, the main character does something to the villains, then the villains fight back, and almost in exactly the same way. There's at the end, when the villain's defeated, they're like, oh, call an ambulance, oh, call an ambulance, as Charles S. Dutton said. Um, I think he said ambulance, but still. Just this film tries so hard to be what the first film was, and I think it should have tried something a bit different, like the third film does. The third film is almost completely an action movie, and I remembered really liking the third one for that reason. I don't know if I put it above the first one, but I'll have to see when I watch it again. I might watch it tonight. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling about that. But yeah, but this film, it doesn't. I'm not saying it needs this, but it doesn't have nearly as many like recognizable faces in it. And my guess is that this film didn't have as much budget or as high of a budget as the first one. Either that or Danny Glover being added to the cast took a lot more of the budget than they expected, so they couldn't do as many cameos. But like the first film had like Richard Riehle cameoing, freaking well, Jennifer Blank from Everly, freaking Charles S. Dutton was the villain. Ron Perlman was in it. It seems like the first film had more budget, even though the first film was indie, I guess, and because of Samuel Goldwyn, and this film was 20th Century Fox. So I'm guessing they lowered the budget for this for some reason, even though the first film, I guess, was successful on home video or something, or streaming something. But like, I don't know. It just seems a bit odd. This film at times does feel a bit cheaper. There are some effects that don't look great. The CG blood has gotten better in this film. The first film did have some practical, like when he sticks the guy's hand down the garbage disposal. That was mostly practical effects, but there were bits of like blood spurts that didn't need to be there. It could have just like cut away to like one of their faces. It would have been fine. But yeah, this film does improve on the CGI blood for sure. And it's not like it needs a lot of CGI blood. There's not really like a ton of shootouts um or anything. But yeah, like this film, I guess I can get to the issues. Again, this film tries too hard to be what the first film was. I think Charles S. Dutton in the first film was a much more fun villain. Andrew Divoff, again, I think he's an imposing villain. There's not much more to his character than he has diplomatic immunity and he can't be touched. He's an untouchable. But in the first film, Charles S. Dutton had more of a personality to him. He was kind of a loud talker. Charles S. Dutton's a bit more has a bit more personality, and it was more fun to watch him. Andrew Divoff, it was kind of just like, oh, he's doing a villain again. So it was just kind of eh. But like in this film, I don't know. It's more comedic, definitely. It's definitely more of an action comedy. And I think the third film is also a bit more action comedy. But I don't know, I just feel like something's missing. Again, the like love interest character isn't nearly as interesting or fun to watch as the one from the first film. Same with the kid. The kid falls to that bad era of child acting where they there was that one movie, I can't remember what the movie was, where like oh, it was While She Was Out with Kim Basinger. There's like a scene where like these kids see their speaking of Craig Sheffer played the abusive husband in that. After he's like almost beaten her in front of their own kids, she like hugs these kids before going out to the mall and they're like, I want a Nintendo Wii for Christmas. I want an American Girl doll. And it's not how kids talk. It's really annoying. This little girl character, God bless her, she's adorable, but either it's a bad direction or she just cannot act. Um, Craig Moss's direction has been fine in the first two films so far that I remember. Like, it's been fine for the actors. And the kid from the first movie was definitely a bit older, for sure. But, like, he was fun to watch and he wasn't annoying. He was a smartass, which is a more interesting character than this little girl who's just constantly like, I do you want to play Barbies with me? Can we go to Chuck E. Cheese? Like after Frank gets like the guy in jail the first time, she's like, "Oh Frank, can we go to Chuck E. Cheese?" And there's one scene where she lists like three different things. She's like, uh, in this safe space, I'm gonna put my Blues Clues. I'm gonna put my American Girl doll, and it's really annoying. It's clearly bad child writing. Um, at least she's not in the film too much, but still, it's just really annoying seeing children be written like that. Uh, but there are good moments in this for sure. I for the most part I still enjoy this film. I do. Um, because again, you've got Danny Trejo teaming up with Danny Glover. That's great. You've got their banter together, which is well done. They're both acting well. Uh, they both get to kick ass. There's some pardon the pun, but there's some badass moments um of like them saving each other's asses and it's fun to watch. This is not like a blood pumping action movie. It's not trying to be. It's trying to be a fun action comedy. That's exactly what it's trying to be and that's what it is. And that's what it does. Um but yeah, uh guess look at the pros and cons. I don't have much to say about this. I don't know if I'll have much to say about either of these three films. These reviews are not nearly as long as others, but still, it's not that I hated them. It's that I feel like if I explained more, I'd be giving away the entire story. But pros: Danny Trejo, Danny Glover, uh, Andrew Divoff all do good jobs. The action, for the most part, is pretty competent. The editing has been improved a little bit. It's not nearly as close up, shaky cam. In the first film, it never got so bad that it was incomprehensible, but still, they've improved it. There's a pretty fun car chase where they're driving in a car after Rosaria, and there's like a guy in a helicopter shooting at him. That was a fun scene. Didn't look too bad. Um, Film cuts at a nice pace. It's around 90 minutes, like the first film. Um, the music by Todd Haberman is uh, a bit better than the first. And the cons, again, I don't like Rosaria nearly as much as the love interest in the first film. I don't buy I don't buy them getting together as much as in the first film because it felt genuinely sweet. Here it's still kind of sweet, but eh. Again, the daughter is annoying. Uh, I, I And this film again suffers from trying too hard to be the first film. But yeah, I still like the film. I still recommend it if you like the first film. But yeah, that was my review of Badass 2 Badasses. And if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. And Movie Review Next Door out.